Hey guys, this is Raghu Reddy here, and in today's episode, I have a special guest, and he is an MDRT achiever and has over 5 years of outstanding service. So, Andrew, welcome to the show.
Hi Raghu, thanks for having me.
You're welcome, and it's great talking to you, Andrew. So, where are you located?
Well, right now, like literally, I'm in my room. Yeah, but I'm here in Singapore.
Okay, very good, very good. I too live in Singapore. Fantastic. Okay, so how did you come into this field?
Well, okay, that's a bit of a longer story,
Mhm.
but maybe the shorter version, which is still quite long, is so 5 years passes really quick, and I think if you can take it from me, right, there's a saying that goes that people overestimate what they can achieve in 1 year, they underestimate what can achieve in five. Yeah, so this 5 years just really felt like yesterday. So 5 years ago, right, I found myself at a crossroads, right, where I was supposed to decide, what I wanted to do with my life or my career.
Mhm.
Right, and frankly, before getting to know, my agency, my mentor, a career in financial advisory was not something I'd ever considered. Yeah, because in fact, maybe just to give you a bit of an indicator of what I used to do and how I used to think, right?
Mhm.
So in 4 years in business school, right? So I was from NUS business.
Mhm.
I pursued a lot of things, right? So I was the kind of go getter, kind of go out there and just try everything kind of thing. And I kind of knew what I wanted, right? Because
Mhm.
in the 4 years in school, I did five internships, right? So I started with advertising. I went to a PR firm, right? It's a global PR firm, right? I
Mhm.
was referred to two other internships, and then there was the last one, which there was a social entrepreneurship element to that, right? So all of the idea of eventually, shaping my mindset, shaping my perspectives, to possibly go into consulting, right, or marketing strategy. So that was, pretty much the route I wanted to take.
Mhm.
In addition, in school I was also pretty active, right? So I was very active in the business school students club, right? So I headed a project, right? I was also involved in business case competitions. So for those of you who don't know what case competitions are, I mean, just a fun fact, right? So it's a competition, right? It's organized by a company, right, or
Mhm.
companies where basically they throw business problems at you, whether they're real or made up, and you as a group of students you come together and you try to solve these problems in exchange for a medal, trophy, right? Maybe an internship, right? And then you
Mhm.
get to put something in a resume for bragging rights, right? So, but that's all the rage, right, in business school. So naturally after that, I decided to go into insurance sales. So it's a funny story, right? But long story short is, I gave it a lot of thought, and I think the background behind it was that I was in my final year
Mhm.
in business school, final semester actually, right? And so the interesting thing was that it was one of my friends, right, who kind of referred me into this whole career because she said, hey, there's this internship competition that's coming up. It's probably right up your alley, and it's by this company. So back then I didn't know what they were about, right? So it's a business competition, and I got referred in. So I joined the competition, not knowing it was by an insurance company. It turned out to be by my agency, right? And from there I got to know my mentor. The rest is history, lah. So I think during the internship it was 3 weeks long, right? And 3 weeks I really got to know the people. I really got to know the culture. I learned a lot more than I was expecting to learn. I came to learn that financial advisory is so much more than I think the stigma and the notions that people have of it. You realize the work is so meaningful, and I think you see the people, and I think that was what really made a difference for me. Right? And longer story short, I did my cost benefit analysis, and here I am today.
Mhm. Fantastic. Awesome. 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 When you started out your journey 5 years back, I'm sure that you faced a lot of struggle and setbacks. So, how did you overcome those setbacks?
So I think that's a very common question a lot of people ask me, and I maybe to kind of preempt or rather to start with a frame of reference. I think that's very important because when people ask me challenges you face, and I think the challenges that people face in a sales, right, or a financial advisory career are very much the same across the board, right? So, but I think the mindset that you start with is extremely important. The frame of reference is very important,
Hmm.
and the frame of reference I started with back then was that in life, I don't believe anything is supposed to be easy, lah. Anything worthwhile is not going to be easy, right? Because again, going back to how I used to think, right? So I used to hustle a lot in business school. I used to kind of work very hard. I used to do overnight case competitions, and I believe that at the end of the day, if you put in the due effort, right, and if you go all out at it, right, you will see the results from it, right? So I don't expect things to be easy. So I think coming back to what the challenges I face, of course, especially when you're dealing with people, especially when you're dealing with a stigmatized kind of career, you naturally have this extra layer that you probably don't see in any other sort of career, right? Then the question is, so maybe the correct question to ask yourself if you're thinking, is this going to be challenging? Is it going to be scary? Is rather than ask about how challenging or how tough it's going to be, you want to ask yourself, is it going to be worth it? Yeah, because
Yeah.
if the effort that you put in is not going to be worth it, then why do it at all, right?
Hmm.
And I think 5 years later, I can unequivocally say that the effort has been worthwhile, right? Because you deal with people people will disappoint you, right? People will let you down, right? Sometimes, right? But people also surprise you, right? Because I've had good friends, who, said, okay, I'm going to buy from you. And then they suddenly disappear. And that was kind of disappointing. But I've also had strangers who I've never met in my life trust me, right? With, $1 million worth of premiums. And I think that's shocking, but, that surprised me. And it restores your faith in people. And I think that's a lot of what I enjoy about this career as well. Yeah, so challenges, yes. What are setbacks? Well, it's the same across the board, right? But I can say it's worth it.
Wow, awesome, awesome, awesome. So, what is that really drives you?
Well, what really drives me? I think it's also a family background thing where I grew up, again, not taking anything for granted. I believe that, if you grow up in a system where I think it's a whole discussion, right? And let's not go into that because that's going to be like a philosophy, or that's I think it's talking about, understanding that, you have this equity of opportunity, right? And you have this ability and this level of intellectual, smartness to go out all there and work at it, right? And if you're not doing it, then are you letting yourself down? Are you doing right by yourself and your family? And this seems like a very intense way of thinking. I apologize for that. Maybe I don't apologize for it. It's just the way I think, right? I think your mindset, and I think the things that the life experiences you go through shape you, right? So on that note, and on that note also, so typically when some people say I'm very intense, I will tell people that maybe I'm also intense because of the circumstances I went through. So I don't fault people for not being intense also, but I just want to show people that there's a better way sometimes. And if you're given the opportunity to be in a career where it allows you to kind of pursue your dreams, then the answer is why not, right?
Okay, fantastic, fantastic, awesome. So, during this lockdown period, so what were you doing?
What was I doing? A lot of things actually. I mean, of course, being the circuit breaker, I started by taking a break for sure. But I've also, generally been looking at a lot of how to stay connected with my audience on social media. So, for example, for the first week of circuit breaker, I thought up and I launched a series of weekly Instagram series or stories. It's called Monday Money Musings. You can check it out on my Instagram account, right? I'm also, I've also been looking at ways to carry on business as usual. So I think circuit breaker has definitely disrupted everything. It is a new normal now. But I think I eased into it fairly quickly, right? In the sense that before the circuit breaker, I was already doing a lot of, visual kind of stuff, right? I was doing PowerPoint slides at appointments. I was doing, visual financial modeling kind of stuff. Right? So it's a matter of, translating the materials online into a new medium. And then how do you make that work in the best possible way? Right. So I think for the first maybe week or so, right, I was looking at ways to carry on business as usual, interactions with clients, right? So business on that end, on a good note, right, has been as usual because clients have been open to reviews. Zoom appointments have been quite okay actually. Yeah, in fact, some may even say better, right? In addition, a couple of days ago, so the fun thing was that I decided to do a little bit of a client surprise. So I did a bit of client appreciation. So there's this bakery, so this Kueh bakery right near my place, right? It's about a stone's throw away. Right, so I grew up eating the kueh, right? So I figured, during the circuit breaker, since everybody's at home, right? So why not just surprise my clients and pop by their place, right, unannounced, right, and say, hey, I thought of you because this is the kueh I grew up eating. And I think a lot of clients were very happy, they were very surprised by that. Yeah, so I've been busy, right? On a more personal note, I've been eating a lot more, right? For sure. I've been trying to exercise a lot more, getting a bit of routine in. Yeah, I'm sure everybody's been doing that as well. I've been trying to read a bit more as well. Yeah, so a couple of books. Like so, before the circuit breaker, I planned. I went to the library, borrowed a bunch of books, bought a few as well, because I'm still trying to complete that before the circuit breaker ends.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. So, what's your personal vision for the future?
So maybe I will answer this question from three angles. On my own personal kind of practice level, so I'm always looking to push the envelope, right? So I mean, I'm also very, we're in a sales career, like we're in a financial advisory, but still a sales career. And I think the pinnacle of this career, right, is not just the MDRT. It's this thing called the top of the table.
Yeah.
So I do hope at some point in time, I will get to the top of the table, but not because I mean, it's not a sales award or anything that I relish. It's more the fact that if you believe in pursuing excellence, then you have to recognize excellence as what it is, and you have to pursue it all the way throughout. Right. At the same time, also, I think the part I will enjoy about this whole thing is that when you're working at the top table, it also means that the kind of people that you're speaking to, right, are people who are smarter than you. So I look to work with people smarter than me, and at the top of the field as well. Right? I think the conversations you will have with them are more enjoyable than sense, lah. Right. So that's one aspect of it. The second aspect of it, I think, is coming from a management and leadership kind of perspective. Also, I think that's the part of the career that I've recently started on. Right, I look forward to growing my associates and seeing them, succeed in this career. Right, so I have this like small little dream or vision, since you asked that, right? Where I really see my associates one day go up on stage, do well, right? And then I'm looking down, I'm looking up from them, from below the stage, and I'm thinking, hey, you did well, right, for yourself. I think the second part. The most, heartfelt or most cheesy part of it, I think, is I've always had this little dream of sorts, lah, right? Where, because I think what I really enjoy about this career is growing with my clients, and I always had this mental vision, right, of one day, having a dinner party or a barbecue, right, and then I'm having a barbecue with all my friends and clients, right, and our kids are playing together at the playground, and I hope one day it will happen, lah. Yeah, but that's the part I think of the career that when I get there, right, I think I'll know I've made it in this career.
Wow, awesome, 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 fantastic. So, what would be your advice for a newcomer?
Okay. For a newcomer, I would say you got it rough because you came in at a time where I think the bread and butter foundation, right, of so the bread and butter of this career is discipline, and you have to have that, right? And unfortunately, because you're in an environment right now where technically nobody can force you to come into office, right? Nobody can force you to do the things that you're supposed to do. You can't really see the people in person, right? So it's a bit rough. But just because it's rough, I think it's not a all things aside, you have to recognize that I think we're in a very resilient essential services career, right? So I think you've got to keep your chin up, right? You've got to stay the course. But what you can focus on in this period of time is really thinking, rethink your business, or rather start to think about your business to understand, okay, what are the things I need to pivot towards, right? And what are the key skills I need to succeed in future, right? Because the fact of the matter is, right, that this whole COVID situation is probably not going to go away, or even if it does, right, it's going to be a new normal, right? So how are you? The things that were taught you previously, right, may or may not apply anymore, but how are you going to stay relevant for the future, right? That's something you really need to think about.
Oh, awesome, awesome. So, if somebody wants your services, how they can contact you?
Well, the easy way is over LinkedIn, right? So I have a LinkedIn account, right? You can search me, right? Andrew Day. You can connect to me on Instagram. You can drop me a DM as well, right? So it's Dreberry, right? Or you can, kind of drop me an email. Yeah, I think it's fine as well. I'm not going to disclose my number here, right? Because then I don't want funny people calling me, right? Yeah, but I think I'm all over, I think quite easy to find online.
Awesome, awesome. You see, the economy has changed, the marketplace has changed, and there's going to be a lot of new challenges that's going to come
Yeah.
up. So, how are you prepared to meet those new challenges?
So again, I think the topic of disruption, the topic of innovation is really not a new one, as much as people like to say it is, right? Because um, so let's reword the question again, right? So a lot of people ask me, Andrew, with fintech, right, with disruption on the radar, and with all this competition, and with all the agency movements and everything like that, how are you going to compete in such an environment, especially if you are in an industry with 23,000
Mhm.
financial advisors,
Mm.
right? Then it seems very scary. To which I put them back question. So I think a lot of people are focused on what's going to change in the next 5 to 10 years, but they forget something, right? They forget to focus on one thing, right? What is going to remain the same in the next 5 to 10 years? Right? Because when you understand that question and you find the correct answer to it, you find that there's a lot more, you're a little bit more steady with how you think about things. Right? For example, disruption, right? Innovation, fintech, right? Insurtech, right? So disruption is not a new word, right? Disruption has been around ever since the dawn of time, right? The printing press at one time was a disruption, right? The jet engine at one time was a disruption. So it's the same with insurance technology, isn't it? Right? So people are saying, oh, you can buy insurance online now. But at the same time, also, what's happening in the market, you've got to recognize also, is that the foundation of business at the end of the day, and we're in business, right? We're in the people business, right? We just happen to be in financial services, right?
Mhm.
So you're in sales also, right? And you do training also, right? So the foundation of business at the end of the day is people buy from people they like and they trust, right? So I'm not going to buy from a robo advisor just because of a robo advisor. I'll buy into it because I believe in what they believe in. I'll buy because I trust the people behind it, right? So then the question is, if I know that the foundation of all business is trust, how do I continue to build that trust despite all these innovation, despite all this disruption that's coming into the picture, right? So then the key thing is, how do you stay relevant? What kind of key skills do you need, right? Because as technology gets more advanced, as fintech gets more advanced, and we as human beings, we need to become more human. How do you become more human? How do you continue to earn that trust for the long term?
Mhm. Fantastic, awesome, awesome, awesome. So, Andrew, it was wonderful talking to you. Really awesome insights,
Thanks
and
for having me.
you have a great vision there, and you're making a huge impact and a difference in people's lives. So, I wish you all the best for your future, to continue to make a bigger impact and a difference in people's life, and continue to do the awesome work.
Yeah, thanks, Raghu. I hope we stay connected.
Thank you.
Thanks for
And
having me as well.
thank you for being on the show.
Sure, sure.
Awesome.
Yeah, catch up with you then.
Yeah, we'll keep in touch.
Okay.